Hello, I've cleared Memories of Chaos and Pure Fiction in under 90 days in a free-to-play account. And I'll give you tips right now on how to do it, and basically I'm just going to lay out the strategy that I came up for this challenge. By using the very classic, very crude and focused scorched earth strategy. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? The preparation phase where we set everything up. First of all, I did make a video on the reroll guide and I basically followed everything that I said there. So if you want to skip this and just watch that video for the entire full guide, then please do that. That video does not have a lot of views. But I'm going to lay out to you the basics of the strategy here as I executed them instead of in theory. My first order of business is to clear every single quest in the game that gave me Trailblaze EXP as fast as possible. What is the possible benefit of doing that, you may ask? By doing this, I was laying the way so that my Trailblaze power is able to be used for more potent rewards locked behind higher equilibrium levels. If I didn't focus on my equilibrium levels, my Trailblaze power would be forced to be used on the lower rewards, and I might not be able to catch up to Echo of War mats as that is weakly time gated and equilibrium gated. Do note that if you are simply looking to clear Memories of Chaos at all, it is fair to note that playing the game at your own pace won't severely affect this phase, but this video is about blitzing, and to blitz endgame you have to do a lot of no-lifing for this to work. I no-life this game for around maybe 12 hours a day, just spamming through cutscenes for around 2 weeks, and that is just impossible if you're not someone like me who has a job that can do that. Nevertheless, you should focus on equilibrium raising missions like Trailblaze continuances and all the permanent events. The planning phase. It runs concurrently or after the preparation phase, and this is where we think about pulls. While blazing through my equilibrium farming, I already was focused on my planned DPS and teams in mind. Part of the reason why I wanted to clear so fast is to have enough time to unlock higher reward levels to farm for my target limited DPS, which is Acheron. Now why did I pick Acheron for this challenge? To me, there's certain aspects of a character that can make them attractive to new free-to-play players trying to speedrun endgame. 1. They have high numbers at a desirable investment level. 2. They have universal qualities. 3. They have easy builds. And 4. They have good banner mates. Acheron is a character that has an incredibly strong yet cheap team of Gui and Pela. Her numbers shoot up a lot with her signature light cone, which is a 75-25 banner chance. Whereas if my target was Jing Yuan for example, I also wanted to pull Sparkle to make him shine, meaning I had to fight two 50-50s instead, and building two characters is a lot more expensive than one character and a light cone. Acheron's universal quality is being able to shred toughness regardless of resistances, as well as having such a weird team archetype that the second team is not fighting against any of her demands, which makes building two teams a lot easier. She has very easy builds since her domains are very efficient for new players. World 9 is very good just for focusing on DPS on Acheron and clearing Pure Fiction in the process, and Pioneer is such a good domain since it works with nearly every character. Plus, Pela and Gwynaifen don't need to be highly invested in traces at all to work great with her. And for the cherry on top, her noteworthy banner mates are Pela and Gallagher. Gallagher is a tricky sustain, but if you play correctly has a very strong one. By getting Gallagher with Acheron, I bagged myself a second sustain outside of Lynx, Natasha, or if you were like me, Japard. 2 strong solo sustains is really all you need for Memories of Chaos and Pure Fiction. Outside of Acheron, I also plan to pull Sparkle Banner who has Qingque on the banner. Qingque and Acheron simply doesn't have any overlap at all in teams, and QQ doesn't even care if she breaks an enemy, making her perfect as a second DPS option. A part of my pulling strategy is also the timing of which I do it, which leads to the next phase and which is the main phase. Scorching phase. When you feel you're ready enough to farm endgame, which is usually when you're Trailblaze level 50 with all your fuel unused, and you have the characters to make 2 strong teams for Pure Fiction and Memories of Chaos, you start speedrun building these characters and getting flexible relics like your life depends on it. Why? Because when a new character releases, they also release an endgame fight that is specifically catered to them. And if said character is a DPS, they usually have higher numbers than the last DPS. If you're too slow, you will miss that window when they are the prime and easiest option and have to slave through the next endgame cycle without that clear path to victory. In my opinion, getting your first full MOC and PF clear is much harder than keeping it. So having a clear path to victory for your first endgame cycle is very critical to gain fundamentals on your skill as a newbie, and to properly have a solid feel for what else you're missing in power and refocus your resources on your weaknesses. If you feel as though you need to pull a limited 5-star for a certain fight without a lot of overlap with another character, it may be best to pull for them. Take my experience for example. This Turbulence really favors follow-ups and out-of-turn attacks. While my Acheron side is fine with this, my QQ side is suffering since QQ's follow-ups are not reliable at all. Sparkle does not contribute much for the Turbulence, and investing on another DPS like Ratio felt like way too huge of a commitment. Ratio's teams and relic demands overlap a lot with my Acheron too, so I can't waste my time on that. Instead, I pulled Aventurine since I did not have a limited sustain, and despite his overlap with Japard, he's such a significant upgrade that I can justify building Aventurine to use this turbulence easily. I can also put Japard's relics on Aventurine, and there's no problem with that because I don't need 2 sustains in one team. I call this Scorched Earth because of one reason. This strategy of trying to speedrun endgame means you burn through a lot of your liquidated Stellar Jades. It would be very hard to recover in resources after all this if you still can't clear through some factors. If you didn't plan correctly, if you were too slow, or not know about how to maximize builds and gameplay, you may fall into a pit that you can't dig yourself out of for a few months. That's why this strategy is pretty hit or miss. It either gives you quick glory or just falls apart when you get to the finish line. But of course, if you manage to do enough things correctly, have the correct teams, when the next endgame cycle rolls around, you'll definitely have an easier time after the initial momentum. Trust me, it does carry you very far to know how to clear and what exactly you feel weak on. External factors. After I laid out my entire experience with this free-to-play account, allow me to give some factors that makes my experience not easy to replicate for other players. First of which is that I've already cleared MOC and Pure Fiction on a separate account. This is a big deal since I don't really expect a free-to-play newbie to be able to do endgame fights easier without having a min-maxer's mindset like I do. If you don't have the experience or the resolution to know what you're doing and how you're executing your plan to get to endgame, you could very well be setting yourself up for account destruction. Again, you have to really trust the process, and the strong player instinct from the get-go to really know what decisions to make on the fly is a huge advantage. Events and anniversary. Another huge deal, and why I even said that 2.1 was the greatest time to start, is the multitude of relic-related events. Without these, I have to be honest, I think it would have taken me until the end of 2.3 to get my first 36 stars, so around 100 days or so, which honestly sounds like a catchier title, but I wanted to prove a point, sorry. I don't think I need to elaborate on why it may not be easy to replicate a free-to-play experience that depends on limited special events. Figure that one out for yourself. And lastly, luck. I've only ever won 2 50-50s, which is Jing Liu, who I don't think I really needed for this challenge, and Acheron Light Cone, which I did need for this challenge. But the 50-50 losses I had actually were very good. Japard, Himiko, Welt, and Clara are all very good in their own right in Pure Fiction and in Memories of Chaos. While I definitely would have a harder time doing it without these characters, I'm not exactly the best player in the world to actually be able to live without them, so do note that. I feel like my relic luck is a little blurred, but that's a bias that everybody has. Regardless, there's definitely always going to be a luck factor if you compare my experience with yours, so do look out for that. I'm very much a bit luckier than the normal person on this account, I will have to say, but some people might consider me unlucky for my 50-50 losses. I'm not sure. But anyway, I hope this topic interested you. Let me know if it was interesting. Subscribe. Join my memberships for some really cursed emotes, and see ya. Bye bye.